Oh, Lorenzo.
What's up? It's Lorenzo Beats with I Don't Know Records. Today I'm going to be cooking up over this sample and make something like Miss the Rage that just released with Trippie and playboi carti. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. To start, I'm going to play the sample for the one time. So in this video, I'm going to be trying to give some tips and tricks while I make this rage beat. First tip I will give, obviously send every one of your sounds from here to the mixer. One of the most important things when mixing is EQing a lot of your sounds, especially if you have low end that's cutting in with your 808s and whatnot. Obviously we're not at that stage yet, but we're going to remove some low end now so we don't have to worry about that later. Next, I'm going to add some effects and try and get this sample distorted because it is a bit of an older sample and it has vinyl and whatnot, but that's not exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for more of a distorted vibe like Miss the Rage. So I just went ahead and put a few effects on here real quick. The guitar rig and the RC20 retro color are just mainly used for distortion. I also use the imager because I felt after using these that there was a little bit of a stereo separation decrease. It started to sound a little bit mono, so I used just a little bit of imager. We could go up to here, but it would ruin the way it sounds. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a halftime and gross beat effect. With this saw gate, what I like to do is just put it here, and then I'll go halftime sample actually. Make sure your effects are under this though when doing something like this, just because it'll halftime all the effects if this were down here. You see it's a bit of a difference, and I am actually going to end up exporting both these different versions out into their own audio files. A quick way to do this, by the way, is this little button right here. If you can see in the top left, it says ARM disk recording. We go ahead and do that. And then for me, since I have a Windows keyboard, I use Alt-R and start. And this quick renders a clip. So now this isn't here anymore, but it is in my track list. Next, with both of these tracked out and onto my track list, I'm going to go ahead and go into each one. This declicking mode is very helpful if you set it to generic. When you end up chopping this off, if I zoom in right here, you can see it actually does a small little fade out right at where I chop it off. So this is a very good tool for declicking. Next, I'm going to lay down the drums, but I'm going to keep in mind an idea actually. This EQ trick is just cutting out the high end of the sample. So I went ahead and put these into this mixer right here. I threw this EQ on, so now instead of having the high end like this, we're just cutting it all out. This adds a little bit of variation, especially when I go to actually arrange the beat and whatnot. I can actually automate this EQ to affect and defect the sample. Right now I am going to turn it off just because I am going to layer some drums over this. Make sure to variate the sounds that you use. I do use a lot of sounds from the specific Noah X Mad Max kit. Shout out to Noah though, he actually gave this to me and it's a fire kit. Make sure you're using more sounds from different drum kits and whatnot. Same thing goes for if you're making loops and melodies. Don't just use the same one-shot kit over and over. Just use more kits. You see I have like 20 to 30 right here that I individually go through sounds all the time. One way for finding the root note so you can actually layer your 808s in without them being out of key is just to go up to like C7 or C8. You're just going an octave or two up what you would normally put your 808s at. Try clicking them in around here, and then you could just select them all and lower them an octave or two down. You're able to hear higher pitch frequencies better than you are lower pitch accurately. Make sure to always boost the velocity of your 808s as well. Sometimes when you have a sample that's half timed or just an octave down, you have to turn up the volume a little bit. Usually with these, I just like to turn it up to like around 2 to 3 negative dB, so it matches with this. So when I'm actually mixing, I don't really have to worry about the fact that these two may be off by a few dB. So I have to sit there and get the levels right. I'm gonna do a little percussive tutorial real quick. With these, usually what I like to do is not have it so it's really non-consistent. I like to have my percussive loops pretty normal, simple, and pretty repetitive, just so they're adding on to the rhythm and not sort of being really complex. Especially if you have complex 808s, I wouldn't say really having a complex percussive pattern to add on to that is good. So with the snare, I am just gonna put a few per 2 bars and then pretty much just loop it. Same thing with your open hat. I make mine really repetitive and simple. Hi-hats and 808s are probably one of the more complex things you really need to understand. 808s usually need to be simple, but I would say hi-hats, I would definitely add rolls and whatnot. So right now I'm gonna go ahead and add rolls before we go ahead and send all these to the mixer, mix them, and get the beat arranged. A quick way to make rolls, by the way, for me, the command is going to be Alt-U. You can see as I move the time multiplier, it actually changes. Sometimes with your hi-hats, you want them to actually complement the 808 and just the beat overall. I'm trying to go through and just see what hits right. Sometimes when your kick or your 808 slaps in, it's good to have a little hi-hat roll. Usually I just like to keep these pretty repetitive, but sometimes diverse. The second 2 bar, like you see right here, this got moved over just a little bit and I added this extra roll on here. I also added this extra roll in place with this tight roll right over here. And now we're just going to duplicate that and then we can get to mixing. Quick little mixing tutorial. You want to start with your kick at 0 dB. You want to have your 808 just a little bit under that, your clap a little bit under that, your hi-hat a little bit under that, and then your open hat and your snare about the same. One thing I do like to do with my hat and my open hat is actually pan them left and right just a little bit, not too much. I used to do it too much to the point that it was like really noticeable, but it's not supposed to be exactly one of those noticeable things. It's just supposed to let the drums breathe around the beat a little bit more. Also with the 808 and the kick, I like to turn the stereo separation 50% merged for my 808 and my kick 25% merged. Most of the time it actually ends up helping the kick and 808 hit harder. Sometimes your open hat is actually going to be a bit more quiet visually than your snare. And then with your melody, when you're mixing too, you want to have it pretty much around the -12 to -9 dB range. Obviously, you're going to use different sounds when you're producing, so I wouldn't exactly just copy these levels and whatnot, because these aren't gonna go with the sounds that you use unless you're making literally the exact same beat as me. If you go and try and put these exact same levels, then it's gonna fuck with your mix. Another shout out to Noah Mahia and Mad Max for this Possession Stash Kit. There's these mixing presets in here, which I actually haven't really touched until pretty recently. I like to use this master sauce too, which once you have your master bus selected in your mixer, you can go ahead and just drag this setting over to here. And you see it automatically adds these plugins in. This actually makes it sound a little bit more louder by raising the high end, raising a little bit of the bass frequencies, and just a tiny little bit of the mid frequencies. I like to edit this a little bit just because I think sometimes the high end ends up being a bit too much depending on the melody and how I have my drums, of course. And I also like to turn up the bass just a little bit. I am pretty bass heavy when I mix, but at the same time, it's always important to just keep your levels right. Also, another note real quick, because this mixing preset actually has a soft clipper here, it is okay that I'm having my 808 on my kick clip a little bit. A quick way to get all my sounds out of one pattern is just to right click on the pattern one here that I have all my sounds in. Just go down to split by channel, and then you see over here they all pop up. That's why I deleted them here. I'm gonna go ahead and shift select all of these, get these in here, and now we can arrange the beat. This is usually what I do with my arrangement. I like to take out the whatever percussion I have. In this case, I do have 2 snares. This is my secondary snare. I'm gonna take this out for the verse. I also take out everything but the one hit for the open hat on the verse, and then I like to have my kicks like this. It's better if you have a kick starting out in the pattern, just because when the beat does come in, especially right here, it hits harder. I like to do that, and then I just have that repeating over here. Sometimes what I like to do is just select all of this, deselect my clap or snare, whatever you have there, and then just move every other sound to cut it out. So once this 16 bar loop right here ends, then this is just gonna hit, and that's gonna be the final note. It sounds dope. I'm not explaining it very well, but and then we're gonna go ahead and just take this and loop it, deleting this little second verse part because this is just gonna be an intro, hook, verse, hook, outro beat. So this is the arrangement that I'm gonna stick with. Just specify real quick. This is the original sample, and then this is it with the halftime. Now what I'm gonna do, like I was talking about earlier, is go right back into here. See how I had this deselected? I'm gonna go ahead and create automation clip here, and then I'm gonna take this out. Actually, I am gonna put it here so it does work with the intro, and then pretty much when the beat hits, it's gonna come out of this bubble, I guess you could call it, and just open up. And then it's gonna go back into that little bubble for the verse, and then it's gonna come out again, and then I'm not actually gonna use this effect on the end here. One final thing I am going to add is a little riser to make the beat drop more hard hitting. I'm also going to add it where the sections of the hook and the verse end, just so if an artist were to go on this, they'd have a little bit more of an understanding of where the hook and the verse and the second part of the hook come back in. And then finally, one little thing I am going to do just to make the beat hit just more harder. I'm going to take this main snare. I'm actually just going to take this small little section right here. We're actually just going to chop this up so it hits 4 times before the beat drops. And our beat is finished. Like I said in the beginning, make sure to like and subscribe if you like seeing content like this. The beat is going to play with this outro, and I'll catch y'all later. This has been Lorenzo Beats on the Night on the Record YouTube channel, signing off.
Oh, Lorenzo.